We have a Hornets stat draft. David Walker joins us. We'll go round and round to see who gets the best Hornets stats for this upcoming season. And Hornets Grid, we'll continue to explore that as well. All today, Locked On Hornets.
We could go Darko. We could go Raptor. I mean, there's LeBron.
The Vorps and the Schnorps.
The Schnozberries.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. I thought you were telling me to stop, Doug, but that was just an aggressive number one that you were holding up. We are first.
Listen.
We're first. Damn it, you listen. We're first, according to Doug Branson. There's Doug Branson. There's a Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. And there's David Walker. You can find him on Twitter at David B. Walker. I'm the other Walker, Walker Mail. Listen to me on Wes and Walker, WFNZ 92.7 FM from 12 to 3 p.m. So you cooked up something else for us, huh, Doug? Like we're taking on another project. We've started 2 this week, and we haven't even finished one that we've been trying to finish for over 4 years now.
It's the silly season. I've gotten into cooking lately. I made a pan pizza from scratch last night. It was delicious. Thank you very much. But before we get, yes, we're going to do this Hornets stat draft. It's a new thing that I cooked up inside the old noggin. But before we get to that, I know that we're not supposed to talk politics on this show, but it was a huge night for Doug's last night at the Democratic National Convention.
Oh, my God. Where can we get one? Is anyone in Chicago? We need a sign. We need one sent. At least one, if not 3. We need Doug signs everywhere.
You know what? You just made me think I need to email Locked On Bulls and see if they can secure us a couple of Doug signs. But also, that really wasn't the main story for me. It was in Michelle Obama's speech at the Democratic National Convention, her main theme. What was her main theme? I don't know if either of you guys watched. I don't know if anyone out there in the Locked On Hornets universe was watching, but her main theme, Walker knows, it was. Go ahead, Walker.
Well, no, I was going to say, you didn't know if I was watching. I was watching. I actually watched Barack, and I watched so much more, and I did not see the Michelle part. So this is the one part I missed.
Oh, okay. So again, I don't want to talk politics on this show, but Michelle's speech was do something, which was amazing. Now, I'm waiting on my royalty check. She must be a close follower of the Locked On Hornets podcast, but they had the crowd chanting do something, and, I'm going to send that to Mitch Kupchak.
Okay.
Send that to Jeff Peterson, too. He needs to remind. He's been doing something. I'm not critiquing Jeff Peterson, but I just want a constant reminder that every year you need to be continuing to do something to build this team into a winner.
I don't know if our Locked On Bulls guys would be the kind of people that might have one of those signs hanging around, or if they were at the DNC, but maybe we could ask, and then we could see.
I want
to
do something sign, and I want a Doug sign, okay?
All right, Doug sign.
Big day at the Doug National Convention yesterday. Big time day. All
right,
so there you go. Now you're thinking that's what we need, a Doug National Convention.
All right, tell the people how this new game works, Doug.
It's really simple. So we're going to do a snake draft here. I think David can draft first. He's the guest, and then you and I can fight to the death for the second overall pick. But we're not drafting players. Well, we are drafting players, but we're also drafting a player's box score stat last season paired with an over or under versus last season. So I could select, for example, I could go Josh Green, one of the newest Hornets, and I could say box score stat, maybe points per game. You know, he was doing a little bit of scoring, but if he starts, maybe he does more. So I could go Josh Green, points per game, over, and that's going to be my draft pick. So does that all make sense to everyone?
It does. It does a little bit. Perhaps I would almost sacrifice the first pick to you just so I can get a clean understanding on how this works.
Okay.
But
I do have one more rule.
Mm-hmm.
Once you take a stat, so points per game, games played, really any stat. I mean, if you want to get super advanced with it, that's fine. But once you take a stat category, you cannot take that stat again. So you can't just go like Miles Bridges points, LaMelo points, Josh Green points, Brandon Miller points. Once you take a stat, you're done with that stat. You can take players again, but you just can't take the stat.
Gotcha. Okay.
And how many are we going for?
as many. I think we could do. Listen, we got to fill some time here, so I think we could do multiple shows on this. We'll get as many rounds in as we can. But first round, first overall selection is going to David. I'll take the second.
There's only so many stats, right? There's only so many categories, I suppose. But I guess you could just go down Basketball Reference. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Well, listen, Nylon. Don't tell Seth Partnow. Don't tell Nylon Calculus that. There are stats. We could go Darko. We could go Raptor. I mean, there's LeBron.
The Vorps and the Schnorps, according to Zach Lowe.
The Schnorps, the Schnozberries. Tastes like Schnozberries. Okay, David, first overall pick.
Yeah, I'm going with the first overall pick in the inaugural stat draft. I'm taking the over in the Brandon Miller points per game.
Okay, you're taking the over in the Brandon Miller points per game. Explain your pick here as I pull up the stat.
Yeah, I did that without looking at the stat. I just think Brandon Miller, I think he's primed for a sophomore jump, and pairing him with LaMelo Ball and just more NBA experience, I think he's going to have a few more maybe bust out games. Could he get to the 40s? Could he get to the 50s? I just think they're going to look for him to score a little bit more, and he's going to be more comfortable this year after his rookie season. So I like that pick for me.
Well, there's a stat right there. LaMelo Ball, number of 40-point games over under. I mean, it's 0. So really, you I guess you could go push. We could do push if you want. But you could go over and say that he's going to get a 40 burger. But his points per game last season, 23.9. So you're over. You're expecting him to average 24 or more points per game. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but that is, number one overall selection. That's tough. What do you think, Walker?
You said, wait, Brandon Miller scored how many points?
I'm sorry, Brandon Miller. Okay, that's my fault.
Yeah.
17.3.
Now we're talking. We're talking. I was
Yikes.
getting a little worried that I should have looked that up.
I wasn't listening. That was my fault. That's a fine for me. It's $1 for me. I wasn't listening.
Right off the bat.
Doug, I will sacrifice this pick for you. Why don't you go ahead and then let us know what your selection will be in the stat draft with the Charlotte Hornets?
So I'm going to go with, maybe this is why I wasn't listening, because I was really thinking about my pick, and my pick will be LaMelo Ball, and I think it should have been the number one overall pick. I think it is LaMelo Ball, games played, over. It has to be over, or the Hornets season is over. So games played, 22. I mean, he's got to – otherwise I'm going to be the biggest jinx ever, but it's got to be over 22 games played. That is going to be my first round selection.
Okay, I think I understand the game now. At first I thought it was prop bets. Now we're going back to what the stats were just last year.
Draft the bus.
Okay, so if you guys are going Brandon Miller over points per game and you're going over games for LaMelo, I don't want to go with the hater pick. I don't want to go with the hater pick.
Do what you got to do, buddy. Yeah. Listen. We're trying to win something. I don't know what we're trying to win, but we're trying to win something.
Okay. My next pick, I'll go with Miles Bridges under points per game this upcoming season. It's a hater pick, man. I don't even mean to be a hater here. It doesn't mean that Miles Bridges isn't an important part. If we're having the conversation about LaMelo and Brandon being the two best offensive options, if you think Mark Williams is going to play more games this year, I expect LaMelo and two-man game and Mark Williams two-man game to be working, which means that would take some points away from Miles. If you have Josh Green, you're hoping for some knockdown threes, catch and shoot variety. That's going to take some buckets away from Miles. I expect the usage to go down for Miles with more ball handlers in the lineup. That means that's some points taken away. I'm going with the under points per game for Miles Bridges.
Okay, so his points per game last season, 21, and do note that was the third best on the team. It probably led the team post-trade deadline for sure, but he was second to LaMelo Ball at 23.9, as I already mentioned, and Terry Rozier at 23.2. So no more Rozier, but you're expecting a Miller bump. You've brought Josh Green in, which you don't expect to take a ton of points away, but they've got to shuffle some things here, and I think you're right. I mean, 21 points, that might be a tough hill to get over for Miles Bridges. All right, this is a snake draft, Walker. So coming back into this next segment, you are going to have the next pick.
All right, there you go. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. We continue with the Hornets stat draft. Who am I going to select? What am I going to select? You have to stay tuned to find out. Coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. For my next pick, I'm going to go with the stat that the head coach has already said flat out.
I knew it. I should have. Oh man, I knew you were going to take it. I know what you're going to do, and I wanted it. And how dare you?
Oh, that's the beauty of a snake draft, man. The people that prosper in the beginning don't necessarily prosper later on. And so here I am going back-to-back Miles Bridges, points per game for the under. Mark Williams.
Oh, okay. No, this is not my pick. I'm sorry. No, this is not my pick.
So I'm sorry. Did you just throw a grenade on my entire thing by taking the mic and saying, I know what you're going to do? No, I don't actually. Here's the mic again. Proceed.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm
gonna go. I'm gonna go with a stat that Charles Lee has already said you should hit the over on. If he were to take 10 threes, he would say to take over on 3-point attempts for Mark Williams. I'm going to go with more than 0. I'm going to say that Mark Williams attempts at least 1 3-point field goal this season because he took 0 last year, despite saying that he would shoot a little bit more. So Mark Williams, 3-point field goal attempts, come on down.
Okay, let me explain myself, because when you said Charles Lee has already previewed this over-under, I thought you meant Brandon Miller 3-point attempts, because he has already previewed that as well. He said in Summer League they want to take some of those mid-range opportunities that he had last season and convert them into 3-point attempts. So for my second-round pick, I am going Brandon Miller 3-point attempts per game, which last season was 6.7. I think it goes even higher. I'm not going with 3-pointers made or 3-point percentage. I'm just saying he's going to attempt more 3-pointers. And look, Terry Rozier was at 7.7. LaMelo Ball was at 9. So 6.7 seems high, but not in today's NBA. I think he can get to 7. Yeah. And that's going to be my second.
So, and I meant attempts too with Mark, by the way. I don't know if we're gonna say, oh, no takesies, backsies, but I did mean attempts. But that's fine. I'll go with 1.
I thought you had attempts.
Okay.
It might be me not listening again.
I did.
Pretty sure you said attempts.
I'm changing it. I'm changing it right now.
Okay, there you go. All
Things
right,
are moving fast, folks. We're in the war room.
Yes.
Things are moving fast.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
go ahead, David.
we only pick one category and one player, right? So you can't double up on a player category.
You can double up on a player. See, now you weren't listening, so that's a fine for you. That's $1 for you.
That's a lot of stuff.
Rules are fun, David. Rules are fun.
Because I just didn't want us going every one of these points per game. So you can't double up on the stat cat, but you can double up on the player.
Okay. I'm going this one is feels exciting, but it also is very scary. I'm going LaMelo Ball on the under for turnovers per game, and I think if he can do that, then this will. And I'm just thinking that hopefully he's going to be healthy. The team as its core will be more healthy. So I'm going that he's going to tighten things up a little bit this year, and be maybe throwing to some guys that should be earning some more minutes on the NBA court. I'm just the overall uptick in talent on the court. I'm going to say LaMelo and decision making is going to prove to be an under for that one.
All right, so I have one more in my head. Can we squeeze one more quick round in?
Let's go ahead. David, you have another one real quick, and we'll try to squeeze in 3 selections.
I'm going for an easy one right here. I'm going Seth Curry over in games played. He only played 8 last year, so that may be a bit of a sneaky one, but I think hopefully we'll play more than that.
I wish I had thought of a rule that's unfair.
Right.
Because,
but you didn't.
But I did. You know what? I didn't. You're right. And you're just playing by the rules that were set out. and you just got a real steal there in the third round. I'm a little bit more honorable than that. I'm going to go Josh Green here, and I'm going to take the over on assists per game. I think he's going to be much more involved in the offense than he was in Dallas. I think they're going to run more than Dallas did. And and if you look at his passing ability in Dallas, he excelled at passing in transition. I think they're going to look to do that more with him. He's going to get opportunities with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller for them to make buckets. I take the over on assists for Josh Green next season.
That's another one I think is dicey, though. Like, I just think with the usage percentage being so high for LaMelo in a world where he plays a lot, and then Brandon, like, he's far down on the totem pole, but just more volume probably gets you more than 2.3 assists per game.
Exactly. And I think more transition. See, he's not going to be somebody, although if you look at his tape, he's also good at drive, kick to the corner. I just think things are going to open up for him more. Because look, he was playing with not only Luka, he's playing with Kyrie too. Like, look, LaMelo Ball is going to eat up a lot of those assists, but I don't think Brandon Miller's going to be Kyrie level passer. So I like Josh Green to get a few more assists. I don't think it's going to be like he's not going to average 5 assists, but I think he can get the 3.
So I might be going with the dicey one here too. I think I might be going back to the Mark Williams well. I'm going to go with over 1.1 blocks per game.
Wow.
It's really not that much for a center. The thing I'm worried about with Mark is the fact that he has such an, like, I saw you retweet the hell nah stat where that was going on, where ball handlers will go to the paint, they'll see the big man, and they'll dribble right back on out of the paint, and that's because they see Mark and they're worried about putting a shot up. So I wonder if there's better rim deterrence numbers from Mark than there are just flat out blocks. But also with that kind of size, 1.1 blocks per game isn't a lot. We've seen, talented shot blocking power forwards reach that mark. So I'm going to go with the over on Mark Williams to be able to give you at least 1.2 or above, especially with Charles Lee also talking about valuing skills, like a variety of a skill set from a center, but also the thing he wants more is rim protection, and that's going to be Mark Williams.
Well, defense is going to be a focus for the new head coach, obviously, but you've still got Steve Clifford walking around the halls, and he mentioned in his sort of outgoing press conference that one of his regrets was not mixing it up more with Mark Williams and drop coverage. And so if that sort of carries over into the new administration, then you could see more opportunities for him to kind of sneak down there and get blocked. So we'll see. All right,
okay.
We squeezed in 3 rounds, but I think we can do 3 more on another episode later this summer and just like pile these up and see who wins at the end of the season.
That was rapid fire, baby. Things are moving quickly. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we move to another one of our silly projects. It's the Hornets Grid coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
Is there a read here?
Yes, there is. FanDuel. Before we go to the Hornets Grid, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That sounds awesome. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube or YouTube TV if you bet $5 on FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sportsbook. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets. All right, here it is. It's the Hornets Grid. We debuted this the last episode. We looked at some of the categories on the Hornets Grid, most underrated, overrated. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see some of them. But we decided we were going to try to figure out what the easiest boxes to fill were. The ones that we came up with, me and Doug, I think everybody would universally agree, at least for the most part, would agree that Kemba Walker is the best Hornet of all time. So we chose together Kemba Walker. He's in the best Hornet of all time box. Doug more so, although I can agree, Doug chose Muggsy Bogues as the best passer of all time. LaMelo,
regrets.
like, he's there, but there's a lot of assists for Muggsy. He has all the records, so we can put him there. And I chose best shooter with Glenn Rice. That 3-year stretch, I think, is still the best 3-year stretch of offensive basketball the Hornets have ever seen. So I put him as the best shooter. 47% from 3 1 year, never below 41 and change. It was ridiculous. So Glenn Rice is the best shooter. David, this is where you come in. Now you get to decide any of the boxes that are not filled yet. This is your one, not even one, but it's your first box that you get to choose. So most annoying, most potential, best handles. What category are you trying to fill?
What? And before you reveal that, David, I just have to say that this is our way of actually getting this done. Maybe this summer, but hopefully next summer, if at the latest. But this is the way we get it done: is we invite people on and we just say, "Do our work for us. Here's a box. It's all yours. We can't argue with you. This is going to be the show's grid, so you can pick any of these categories, and whatever you say goes."
Oh, so I'm picking the box and the winner of said box. I mean, we're not discussing this. We're not talking.
Oh, that's right. Yes. No, this is you are filling in the answer. This is your Scantron.
If you need counsel, we can be here for you. We can be a support. We can be a support system, but ultimately, it's your call.
Okay.
It's your box.
Okay, that's fine. Final answer for me. I like that. I like that.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? All right. I want to do most overrated. That's just cool.
Whoa, going negative. I love it.
No,
he said he's not doing it.
To do that. Man. That's too. We're not.
I turn up my headphones. Something's wrong with my headphones, I think.
Whoa, okay, here we go.
Technical problems.
Oh man,
I think you should go for most overrated.
On funniest. Well, it's like how do you categorize? I mean, it's just like almost like worst starter, most overrated. Those are just mean and cruel.
Hater picks. I'm gonna
go with best handles.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with best handles.
Couple of good candidates here. I mean, you think. Short term, you've got Terry Rozier. I mean, LaMelo doesn't have the. LaMelo's got the assists. LaMelo can make some plays, but I mean, Terry Rozier recently is the guy that I think best handles.
I don't know if it's that hard. Like I have one that's pretty easy. I think the answer is Kemba again.
I think it is.
Kemba is known for it. I mean, yeah, I guess it was at UConn, but one of the better plays of all time is him just putting Gary McGee, poor Gary McGee, on skates in Madison Square Garden. Just being able to create in the half court, being so quick and handling the basketball. Like, I mean, I guess you could go with Muggsy. It's going to be a point guard award, but I still think I'd go with Kemba with the crossovers and just making you look like a silly little fool out there on the court.
Now, I think this is going to end up being Kemba. I think I can make an argument for Terry in that Kemba had a great ultimate finisher move, that killer Kemba crossover.
Yep.
I would argue that Terry had more in the bag with his dribble moves than Kemba did. But I understand if you ultimately decide on Kemba. But before we do that, we did Muggsy. That's classic Hornets. Is there any non-Kemba Bobcat that would be in the discussion?
A Bobcat?
I mean, no, you can't go Felton there. A little too loose with the handle.
DJ didn't really. I didn't think of DJ.
DJ, not enough. No, too much shooting, not enough dribbling.
Byron Mullins might get there, but.
What was Brevin Knight doing with the rock? Was he handling it nice?
Well,
he was fending that thing to the ground.
He was too busy fending off Karens at the local Harris Teeter.
Right.
He couldn't.
No, I don't think there's many Bobcats. I mean, Kemba, of course, was a Bobcat, so there's your Bobcat.
I made sure to say non-Kemba Bobcat, but yes,
Bobcats. I don't think so. I mean, the only one that would pop to mind would be Felton. It would be Ray, but I don't think that. I think there was just a little too much loosey goosey.
I'm starting to think these Bobcats. If we couldn't think of one name, I'm starting to think these Bobcats weren't very good.
Yeah. Probably
turns out. No, I think I chose this one because it was the easiest one, and I do still think it's Kemba. That handle was just so tight and just so on his body all the time, and the finishing move is a great point, Doug. The killer crossover and the way he got separation, with his size and with his handle and with his dribble to launch that jumper over people was signature. It was signature, and I think you're right, Walker. you can't forget about the Madison Square Garden run in the Big East tournament. Like, that was just, it's too imprinted in your brain. And it's not like he didn't bring any of that to Charlotte, but that was a huge stage, huge moment. I think most people probably still remember that as a defining basketball moment, given the lack of success in Charlotte. But those who watched us here certainly saw that matriculate into the pros. So, yeah, Kemba Walker, New York point guard, man. Come on. That's where handles are born.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so before we've got a little bit of time left, do you see any category here that you think is going to be particularly difficult to decide? Last episode we talked about best in post. There are candidates. I think Big Al comes to mind, but you've also got Alonzo Mourning, Classic Hornets. You've also got, I mean, Dwight Howard played a pretty amazing season. I don't think he's going to win it, but there are some people that you can throw into the discussion. Do you see another square here where you go, okay, immediately I can think of a couple of guys?
Most underrated, but that's just more of a time thing for me and how we remember them to this day. I'm thinking of, probably my favorite shooting guard of all time to play in a Hornets uniform. Only played in 100 games here, but was the best of all time, and no one talks about him. So that's an underrated guy.
Would that be Edward Jones?
It sure would. It sure would. I think that'll be tricky. Funniest?
It's a good one. I like that one.
Funniest is going to be interesting. I think if we go back and think on some guys, we may be able to think.
Well,
not a lot of laughs. Not a lot of laughs, guys.
Yeah, we have. It hasn't been the chuckle hut around this franchise for a while, but I mean, I think you could go unintentionally funny or intentionally funny. I think Frank Kaminsky was a little like awkward funny. Cody Zeller with the sock puppet. I think you could throw that in there. Spencer Hawes was kind of a funny dude.
Again, there was
again,
some
whatever
stuff.
you think about, you're right. There were some things that people,
yeah,
right. I get that, but I'm just saying, like in interviews and stuff, he had jokes.
I think Stack Jack was funny. I
thought
he was
make
great.
love
He
to
had some
pressure.
great one-liners. Yeah.
The thing is, it wasn't specifically with us, though, like, because he said that with Indiana, too, when he got traded to the Pacers, and then he said, I make love to pressure, I'm ready to win a championship. My funniest one, too, like, I guess with some of the intentional and unintentional, Mason Plumlee comes to mind. The left-handed jumper, how much we fell in love with Mason. Plum Dog Millionaire rap music video out there.
Yes.
Plum Dog Millionaire might be one of the funniest dudes out there.
Lance Stevenson had potential to be in this category had it not gone so horribly wrong.
I think he's up there in another one I'm looking at right now. And I also think best role player is probably a layup in my mind. I don't know if you guys are thinking of the same guy, but he's still around in the building today.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's honestly, I would be ready to go ahead and declare that if you want to end the episode with that. I mean, best role player is Del Curry. I mean, that's
yeah. I don't know why I wasn't thinking of him immediately, but you're right. I don't view him as a role player, but you guys are right.
think of him as a role player.
He was a role player. He's sixth man of the year, so for sure, makes sense. If you want to end on that one, if you want to cap this thing off with Del Curry in that box, maybe that's an easy one to fill too.
DC for 3. You're in the grid, my friend.
Sweet. All right.
Now, how much talk did he get on best shooter though? I'm just wondering. I know Glenn was a little more prolific, a little more star-studded.
Well, that's it. Glenn just ate him. I mean, Del Curry. You could look again. This whole thing is going to come down to talent versus production, and I think Glenn had a little bit of both, which I think moves him ahead of Del.
I didn't even think about him. Glenn Rice just came up immediately. Dell, I should have given more thought to. There was the longevity where he just shot 40% every single year, but
he birthed the greatest shooter. Well, he gave birth to the greatest shooter.
Now listen, if he had done that,
yeah, that's true.
Then I would have given him best shooter.
And Glenn Rice has a kid, but he's not shooting like Steph Curry is. Yeah, I think like if you start to go off the dribble, offensive workload, minutes played per game, like responsibility, but the longevity, if you wanted to put Dell there, that's fine. Maybe I shouldn't have said it as easy, but I still settle on Glenn. Perhaps it's a little biased because I do love what he was able to do, but yeah, that's also a good one to bring up.
He was just a killer, and he was a part of the best, some of the best Hornets years, and and also individually, right? He excelled in shooting specifically. So, it's no problem with that.
Yeah, Del Curry should get some love, and he will by having the best role player box immediately taken care of. That's David Walker. He's a great role player. Let's put David Walker in there, coming in and helping us out on Locked On Hornets. That's right. Starter turned role player. David Walker. Find him on Twitter at David B. Walker. There's Doug Branson. Find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He might not be listening to you, but he's still there writing stuff for you anyway. Everyhornetsboxscore.com. Yeah, that's right. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, Wes and Walker, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.